So I thought today to talk about perfectionism. Since nobody here suffers from that problem, you can all have a nice rest during the talk. But I think actually this is a big problem for many people, and I've certainly noticed it in myself, is that we have an idea of what perfection is. And of course, our idea is only an idea, but we don't realize it's only an idea, and we think it's reality, or it should be reality. In other words, everybody should be perfect, and especially as Buddhists. I mean, come on. We finally found the way, so we should now be perfect. Our Dharma friends should be perfect. Our teachers should be perfect. And what does perfection mean? It means everybody does what we want them to do when we want them to do it. That's what perfection means, doesn't it? And so I think a really interesting exercise, maybe we should do this during the upcoming course, is have everybody write down your idea of what perfection means for yourself, and then what perfection means for somebody else in the group. And what perfection means for somebody in your life that you're very close to, and what perfection means for our president. And it was very interesting to discuss these and see our different notions of the specific qualities someone needs to have or not have in order to be perfect. And I think doing this would really show us how our idea of perfection is simply that, our idea. Okay? So that's one part of the equation. The second part of the equation is such perfection possible? Okay? Is it a functioning thing, or is it a non-existent? Okay? So what is it? Is perfection possible? If we met the Buddha, if you thought of who the Buddha was, how he lived 2,500 years ago, would you think the Buddha was perfect? Or would you have some ways that the Buddha could improve his lifestyle? Like, why should he wander around in all these villages, going from door to door, getting food? He should do it differently. Yeah? Or why did the Buddha set up the robes like this? I mean, really, they're so impractical. Yeah, we should have both sleeves covered, or both sleeves uncovered, and we should have a winter set and a summer set. Yeah? And pockets, yes. And definitely zippers. And buttons. Yeah. So, why did the Buddha do, really, couldn't he improve? Yeah. So it would be very interesting to go through and really look at how we have so many ideas about how everybody could improve, and how likely is it that people are going to follow our ideas. So what are our ideas of perfectionism for different groups of people? Yeah. Another question, why do we have the right to dictate perfectionism? We don't want to answer that question. But it's a good question to think about. And third, if the Buddha appeared before us, would we think he was perfect? Or, would we want him to change? Yeah. And then what about perfection for ourselves? Yeah. Does that lead us to be extremely hard on ourselves? Extremely judgmental? Yeah. Fifth question, how does perfectionism affect our relationships with others? when we expect them to be perfect. And remember, perfect is they do what we want them to do when we want them to do it. Yeah. What I noticed in my own mind is my ideas of perfection, both for myself and for other people, give both of us very little space to move. Yeah. My ideas of perfection are like this. And somebody either falls in them or they fall out of them, and they are not allowed to be a developing human being. Yeah. They've got to be perfect after all. So to be perfect, you can't be developing. You have to already have attained it. Okay, so we judge other people that way. And also we judge ourselves that way. You know, in order for me to do X, Y, and Z, I've got to be perfect at the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, we have this a lot when people come and they're exploring monastic life. It's like, I've got to have overcome, you know, this problem and this problem and this problem, and keep all the precepts 100% perfectly before I'm capable of ordaining. Okay. Of course, if you had all of that perfect, you probably wouldn't need ordination because you would already be Buddha. Yeah. But we hold ourselves to these incredibly high standards, as if we should be really, you know, Superman somewhere, or Superwoman. Okay, so this becomes a big problem in our practice because this standard of perfectionism is very good friends with the judgmental, critical mind. Because we have the standard, we, you know, don't fit into it, so we judge and criticize ourselves. Our friends don't fit into it, we judge and criticize them. Our family, same, don't fit into it, judge and criticize. Even the Buddha, yeah. Even you look, you know, it's like you look at Chenrezig. Why is he standing with his feet like this? Well, he's not standing like that. His feet are like this. Then why did the painter paint him with his feet like this? It looks so uncomfortable. Yeah. And, you know, Tara's shade of green. You know, we have a lot of opinions about the perfect shade of Tara's green. Yeah. And it's just not right. No. I think it should be emerald green. They say blue green. I don't like that. Emerald green. Okay. So, you know, very interesting to watch these kinds of things in our mind and how we box ourselves in, how we box everybody else in, you know, to these conceptually invented characteristics, you know, that we attribute to perfectionism. Okay. And then also another thing to ask us is ourselves is what problems does this perfectionist attitude bring us? How does it influence our ability to practice? How does it influence our relationships with other people? How does it, you know, influence how we live our lives? Does it make us open-minded or closed-minded, tolerant or intolerant? Yeah. And if we are going to dismantle, you know, do we want to dismantle perfectionism? And if so, does that mean we have absolutely no standards? That can't be right. But you see, we're extremists. Either you have this perfectionist standard or you have nothing. Yeah. Middle way, folks, you know. There are standards, but there has to be some flexibility, doesn't there? And there has to be something that we are working towards, not something that we already have. because we are Buddhist practitioners, not Buddhas. Okay? And so can we see the world through the eyes of Buddhist practitioners? Yeah? And see, how can we change our conceptual framework? And what happens to our mood when we drop this perfectionist tendency? What happens to our relationships with others? Yeah, what happens to our refuge? Yeah, when we have a more realistic view of who everybody is. Okay? I think we'll have a few discussion sessions on this during the retreat. Yeah? Don't you think it would be a good thing to really delve into? Maybe somebody can go through this and write down the different points and, make 2 or 3 sets of discussion questions about it. I think it would be quite useful. Okay. Oh, yeah?
How does it relate to consideration for others?
Oh, how does perfectionism relate to consideration for others? In the sense of, what do you mean? Yeah?
Well, if we have kind of maybe expectations about social norms,
Mm-hmm.
how to go about and do things, maybe even in the community or whatever,
Yeah.
and those aren't met.
Okay, so if we have social norms about people being polite or impolite or doing things one way or another things, and those aren't met. Yeah. It's amazing how surprised we are when that happens.
That means because we have, I don't know if it's because we think well of people or because we have high expectations of them.
Yeah, well, sometimes we think well and that becomes high expectations, unrealistic expectations. Yeah. And certainly, whether it's somebody that we hold in high regard or we don't, we have certain expectations of certain politeness or civility. And but of course, our expectations are our expectations. Nobody else signed on to them. They seem like they're general societal expectations, but I bet if we discuss them, we'd find out that even in general societal expectations, we all have slightly different ones.
What about very clear guidelines?
Yeah. Hold on, let me finish the answer here. And also, even if we come up with common social expectations, why are we so surprised when sentient beings who have afflictions in their mind don't keep them? Why are we surprised when life happens and people can't keep their promises? Yeah, simply because the circumstance changed. Not even because of an afflicted mind, but the external circumstance changed.
And that kind of points to the rigidity of the perfectionist mind.
Yeah.
Can't adapt.
Yeah, exactly. The rigidity of the perfectionist mind can't adapt to any other possibility than what it thinks. Yeah, and there's a whole lot of shoulds in there. She should, she shouldn't, he should, he shouldn't. So-and-so's supposed to, they ought to, they ought not to, they're not supposed to. Okay? There's a lot of that kind of phrasing in our mind that we may not even be aware of. I should, da-da-da-da-da, I shouldn't, da-da-da-da-da. So much. Yeah, and very tight, very rigid. Yeah. And then when we say, let's loosen it, then we go to the other extreme and like, oh, well, it's a free-for-all. No, I mean, we've got to have some discriminating wisdom in there. Yeah, discriminating wisdom is quite important. But within discriminating wisdom, there's the possibility for circumstances to change, for people who have afflictions to follow their afflictions. You know? There's room for differences of preference, differences of opinions, and a lot of dialogue, and an acceptance that we're all different. Yeah, because if I look, for example, at what perfection means to me in regards to certain people, it's really unrealistic. And there's no way that they're going to have those characteristics because the way they live their life suits them. The way they live their life doesn't suit me. I like more structure, less structure, more predictability, less predictability, whatever it is. But the choices they make about how to live fits them. Yeah. An example I always use is one of my teachers runs his life by modes, Tibetan divinations. It works perfectly for him. It doesn't work for me. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that I need to criticize and say, oh, why is he doing this? And he shouldn't do that, and he should do it the other way, and da-da-da-da-da-da. Because that's simply a personal preference. Yeah? And it works for somebody else. So why do I have to get involved in judging? Yeah?
Venerable, too, just the framework of Dharma practice is so different from the worldly one. Like, my own perfectionism often comes from just job training, that you always have to be 2 pay grades above your current one. Just, if not, you can't get promoted.
Yeah.
And I came with that mind. It took a long time for me to understand monastic life has nothing to do with that.
Okay, yeah. Right, so the way we're often trained in the working world is you have to perform 2 grades above your current pay grade, otherwise you won't get promoted, you know. And then you come into Dharma life with that same thing, and it just doesn't work and it doesn't fit. And even in regular life, what's wrong with working according to your pay grade? Look, fear of failure. I'm going to fail. I won't get promoted. People will think negatively. I won't have a good reputation. So I've always got to excel. Okay, so this is qualification, you know, for our High Achievers Neurotic Association. Yeah, yeah, if you want to enroll. Yeah, she's already the secretary. I'm the president. She's the secretary. Okay. Yeah, well, you're vice president? Okay. Yeah, so you can write to the secretary. Because she's got to do it right and see who's qualified and not qualified.
It would be fascinating to hear what each of us thinks it means, because what in the world does it mean?
Yeah. What does it mean? You know, I want to be perfect. What does that mean? So-and-so should be perfect. What does it mean? You know? So it's again this whole thing of checking our underlying assumptions that we go through life not even realizing we have, and yet they bring us so many problems.